Welcome back to the channel. Project Bad Decision here has been coming right along. I've got the engine transmission in the car. I've actually had it running. I've got the brakes so they appear to work. I've driven it forward and backwards 24 inches with me sitting on a phone book. And I have put most of the rest of the interior in. Console, heater controls, all of that stuff. Now is the moment we've been waiting for. It's time to put some seats in the car. Now, if I was just trying to restore this car to stock, I'd probably find some stock seats or buy some repro stock seats. In fact, I got offered a nice deal on some repro stock seats back in the winter, but this car is destined for something a little bit more aggressive down the road. So rather than spend money twice, I decided to buy some fixed back race seats at this point to put in the car. And they are finally here, a set of Corbeau Forza, extra fat. And we're gonna see if we can't mount them on the factory tracks and get a car that we could actually drive. Let's go ahead and open the box and see what we got. I hadn't actually seen these seats in person, just on the internet. And I've had some Corbeaus in the past, like sort of regular Corbeau seats, which I thought sat kind of high. So I'm very hopeful that these are going to sit low enough that I don't have a problem, especially down the road when I might need to wear a helmet in the car. And let's open this one up and see what we got. I think they look pretty good. They were reasonably priced. Now, in the past, I have preferred seats like the Cobra Monaco, and that's what I have in my 9-second car. Great seats. You can drive a long way in them. They're comfortable when you're racing. But it seems like the price of those seats has gotten completely out of control. Those guys think they're made of solid gold or something. These Corbeau Forzas are a really similar seat to the Cobra Monaco. They come in a regular and a wide size. Surprisingly, I usually sit in like a 16-inch seat, so it was agonizing as to whether I should buy the wide ones or not, but eventually I did buy the wide ones. In order to get these on the factory tracks, we're going to have to mount this steel frame to the factory track, and the sort of normal way that this is done is by building a adapter plate which bolts on here and then bolts on the track for whatever difference there is. I haven't measured anything, obviously I just opened it, so measuring this up and trying to figure out what to do is our next step. All right, here is a test fit. What I've done here is I've aligned the outer mount points on the Corbeau seat to the outside track on the car, and that looks like we've got just about the right amount of clearance there, and I can close the door. And that all looks fine. If I come around here, now I don't have the door panel in, but I have a reasonable amount of clearance between the inner door and the outboard edge of that seat. So I think this is probably the right way to align these. So we'll build adapters for the inboard rails and we'll bolt it directly to the outboard rails. Okay, let's make some adapter plates. It looks like what really needs to happen is the seat needs to be bolted directly to the outside track and use an adapter plate to space it inboard with a bolt hole spacing, in this case of 2.5625, which is 2 7/16, I guess, inches. So we only need to make 2 brackets for each seat. We're gonna use this 1" by 1/8 flat bar. We're going to cut 4" lengths of it, and then we're going to put holes with a 2.5625 or 2 7/16 center to center spacing on here with about 5/8 at each end, about, be a little more on one side. And then we can bolt one side of this to the seat, the other side to the track, and do that for the inside track, and the outside track will bolt directly to the seat. Hopefully it'll go in the car. Now your experience is probably going to be a little bit different because these tracks that I have already been drilled for the lengthwise longitudinal hole spacing on an aftermarket seat like this. So I think that's 13 inches from front to back. The original tracks don't have these extra holes in them. So these tracks have already had the benefit of that. If you're going to do it this way on your tracks, you're also going to have to measure out the longitudinal hole spacing and drill holes in the center line of your tracks in order to facilitate this. Let's go ahead and mark this. I got 4 inches marked off on this square. I got my scribe here. So I'm just going to scribe a line across there. And my safety glasses. I got accused of not wearing safety glasses here in one video, which is totally false, but whatever. Okay, let's line this up. So we're going to line this up so that when we cut it, we still got 4 inches there, that we don't cut something else off. So I'm going to line it up so that scribe mark is just outside. Then I'm going to tighten it in. Make sure it's flat. I'm going to recheck it. Looks good. Put my glasses on and we'll cut this one. Always nice when it drops into the frickin' machine. That's nice. And we get some pliers. There's our 4-inch piece. Usually this breaks off outside, whatever. We need 2 of these for this seat and 2 for the other seat. So off camera, I deburred these on the belt sander. And what we want to do here is mark where we're going to put the holes on these. So first things first, both of these we're going to start with the holes in from the outside edge by about 5/8. So I'm going to use a dial indicator here, and I'm going to measure off 5/8 here. Okay, I'm going to measure that off, and then I'm just going to bring that over here, and I'm going to scribe a little line on there. And I'm going to do that for 2 of these. Now what I want to do is we're going to reset this caliper to 1/2 inch, and then we're going to do the same thing from the edge here, like that, and like that. Now I don't know if you can see on camera, but now we've got a little cross, and that point marks the center of the hole that is going to attach this. I'm going to take a center punch. Now this is a nice little automatic center punch. It's a good tool for anyone to have. And I'm going to get down here where I can really see. And I'm going to get the tip of that center punch right on that little cross. And if you do that a couple times, now you got a little divot in there, and that will help with your drill bit alignment. Plus it allows you to see where you're at. Okay, we'll do the same thing for this. Of course, you can use a regular center punch, but I promise you these little self punches, automatic punches, whatever they're called, are very helpful for this. Okay, so now we've got a little dimple where we're going to put the first hole. So the center spacing is 2.5625. That's how I measured it. So I'm going to bring this out to 2.5625. Now we've got this little dimple here. That's going to help us. We can put our we can actually put our tool in there, and we'll just scribe an arc. We'll do the same for each one of these. That arc represents the 2.5625 spacing. Now we're going to go back and set this tool back to... Now, if you wonder why I keep going to 0, it's because I keep hitting the 0 button. So you go to 0, re-zero it, and make sure that you're really at 0 when you set this. Otherwise, you'll be totally wrong. So then we're going to do the same thing. We'll just run it along the side here. Mark a little cross on there. And then we can go ahead and center punch these two. The brackets are cut. The centers, hole centers are marked. Let's go ahead and take them over to the drill press and we'll drill them. Now we're going to use a step drill. And we're going to drill a 5/16 hole in this. It's 8mm hardware that we're going to use. And I'm going to use this holder for the drill, or for the part, this drill vise. You can have these bolted directly to your drill press, but I actually find it easier to deal with like this. So we'll put the thing in there, and then I know you probably can't see that from here, but I'm going to get the point lined up with that little divot. That looks good. Okay, so now I'm in that little divot. I'm just going to give a little squirt of WD-40 to lubricate everything, and we'll go ahead and drill that hole out. Now just feed gently, let the drill do the work. I'm going to go through the first one. And I know that 2 steps on this is 5/16. So that's the first one. Knock the grease off it. Now be careful, because you're going to have burrs on the back side of it, and we're going to use a deburr knife later to clean this part up before we start committing it to the car. I always use WD-40 for a lubricant for this. Maybe you guys use something you like better. Give me a comment on that. Now I'm going to take a deburr knife. This is a tool that you should probably have if you do any kind of metal work. It's a tool that normally will come in a tubing flare kit. So if you don't have a deburr knife and you don't have a tubing flare kit, just buy a tubing flare kit and you'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And you're just going to run this deburr knife around the end of that to get the burrs off of it. Like that, and you can use your finger gently so you don't cut yourself. Those are 2 little brackets ready to go in the car. One of these seats came with plastic protectors over the screws, and one didn't, in the same box, and the box was sealed. Go figure. Okay, we're going to start by pulling out the factory hardware, which is 8mm socket head cap screws. Let's put these plastic protectors over here. Now we want to orient this how we want it. This is the passenger seat, so it's actually going to sit like this, and this will be the inboard edge. Okay. And that means that our track is going to mount like this. Now we got slotted holes at the front. I think that's how we're going to start. But remember, we want our adapters on the inboard side. That's this side. So let's bolt adapters up to the track. inboard. And for that, we're going to use some 8mm by 20 metric hardware, 10.9 hardware, like grade 8 style hardware. When I cut these brackets, I cut them so that they would line up with the outboard edge of the track and extend a little bit further inboard. So you see, like this, that lines up. If I was to put it on this way, a little overlap. So I want to put it on this way, okay? It's a slotted hole, and I know from my measurements, I kind of want this at the furthest back spot. So let's do that. Put on a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Zip those down. Get in there with a box end and tighten this down, and we should be able to see that we're roughly square. Okay, now in order to put the other one on here, it's supposed to be 13 inches. Remind me which hole we're dealing with. That's going to be this hole. Let's slide this back to where we can get at it. The last guys who are in here didn't get this hole perfectly centered on the track. And if you don't have it perfectly centered, then the track won't slide over the bolt head. So I've just given it a little minor adjustment with one of these files. Bastard file, they're called around here. Okay. And you can see now that we can run that through no problem. Okay, so let's get these lined up the same. That looks good. And we'll go ahead and start bolting these up. I'm just going to put one washer under these. What I want to do on this side is add a couple washers underneath here so that we're at the same height as we are due to the 1/8 inch adapter plate. Okay, then we might as well run these down. Then we're going to have to slide this track down in order to gain access to this hole back here. You think the trickiest part is getting the washers in. It might be getting them out of the bag. Okay. I'm going to put this through. All right, then before we go and put it in the car, we're going to want to line this track up the same. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's oriented the same. Okay, so now we're ready to try this in the car. So if your car is normal, it'll have studs here for the front seats. One bad decision, this stud was missing, and I had to find one in the cans of parts that came with it. Then it's going to use bolts for the back parts here. What we're going to do is we're going to put the seat on these studs, then we're going to try and get these rear bolts run in, and then we'll do the fronts up. And it won't hurt for us to say put a nut just loosely on the fronts, but we want to try and give as much play as we can at the back, because we're not 100% sure when we do a job like this that everything's going to line up. So better to leave it a little bit loose to begin with, and the studs will help guide us at the front. So I guess I'm going to go get the seat and we'll see how we did here. Bad decision here, doesn't have extra nice paint or anything, but still you'd like to do this in a way that doesn't damage the car or the seat. So kind of fish it in like that, and then I can feel I'm through the studs on the front. I'm just going to slide these nuts over. But I'm not going to tighten them down. I'm not even going to spin them down. Then we'll go ahead and try these ones at the back. Now, just so you know, these bolts are actually Stover bolts. So if you look at them, they look like a little triangle. They're not actually square. That's the way they're supposed to be. The problem with Stovers is it can be hard to be sure that you haven't galled something. So that's our first one. And this one, we're going to have to put a little spring into, it looks like. Or maybe we're better to do the inside one first. Let's try that. I'm going to get that started enough so we're pretty sure that it's going in. Give that about 50,000 foot-pounds. All right. Well then, let's see if it'll go all the way back so we can do up the fronts. Okay. We can finish spinning these down by hand. Okay, that looks like an installed seat, and it moves, so we can have a back seat passenger. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that you won't miss out on future videos.